You're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to RBLR Lightning. As always, my name is Jake Ricker. Alongside me, Joe Zamataro, Matt Gannon. Guys, tomorrow, preseason hockey is back. We are that much closer to hockey season. We got preseason games. I'm super excited. We got a great show for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the upcoming preseason games, looking at the media day from the Lightning, and talking about training camp, which has officially got underway. So make sure you stick around for all of that. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes, or you can go check out our old episodes as well as you await the start of Lightning hockey. But first and foremost, guys, how you doing today?
It's here, boys. Let's go. We got camp fully in swing, preseason. I mean, it feels like we've waited for a long time. I'm pumped.
This has absolutely been the longest off season ever. It's been like 6 years, it seems, or what's the Titanic? It's been 84 years. But no, I mean, it's here. We're ready to go. And nothing like a little bit of drama to start off the year as well. But I guess we'll get into that later.
We will absolutely get into all that because I was going on by you guys. I was going through a roller coaster of emotions on media day when all that stuff was coming out. But I want to start with training camp because training camp got underway. We've seen some things going on around there. Joe, you got out to a couple of the things out there when they were doing training camp. How was it heading out there for training camp?
Yeah, I mean, it's just right in Brandon at the TGH Iceplex. It's hard not to call it the Ice Sports Forum anymore. Went out for a couple of the scrimmages, got to see some of the practices, and it's, I went, Friday morning and Sunday morning. On Thursday night, I had a rec league game on the same ice that they did the scrimmage on, and it always amazes me how little room there is when these boys are on the ice skating full speed on the same ice I was just on. And, I got tons of time and space to make a pass, and it just looks like there's no room when these guys are on the ice. And, it's funny, even someone like Braden Point, who's not the tallest of guys, looks like an absolute monster, and it's really fun to watch. And there's a pretty good showing, too. There's a lot of people there coming out to watch and support the team just to get a fresh look at some of the new guys and see everybody shoot some pucks around.
Did you have anybody that you saw while you were there that you liked while watching them play?
There's always going to be a lack of full coordination when it comes to these. You see drills and guys are just trying to understand the drills and then execute them properly. And it's, when you come down to the scrimmage, they have a little bit more ability to do things kind of ad hoc, and you see a little bit more of their game come through. But also with that, they're playing with different players that they might not completely be used to. For instance, just adding Connor Sherry to the mix. I saw him out there with Stamkos and quite a bit with who are they with? Sorelli. So that's a combination that we haven't seen before ever because he hasn't been part of the team. So getting them to completely click, it still takes a little bit of time. But I mean, there were guys that, like, Eastmont looked hot. He was coming out there with a ton of speed and a ton of hustle. Cooch, in kind of typical Cooch fashion, looked ready, but almost bored with it. He's ready for playoffs to come through. But overall, I think that, we'll talk more about it later. That's, pretty obvious from the goaltenders that I saw. Seeing Onefeld up close, it kind of mirrors what we had talked about last week, where there's still some refinement to his game that he really needs before giving him a full chance up in the NHL. So I think that it's a it's not going to be a goalie battle at all in order to fill that backup role.
Isamont was a name that I saw getting dropped around a lot from people like Coach Cooper, Gabby Shirley. I saw a lot of tweets from her. I know it's really hard to gauge a player just from training camp, but actually, you even mentioned him. He was a guy that seemed to be working kind of harder than anybody out there. It's going to be hard to impress in training camp, but he's somebody who, it seems like everybody really latched onto once we acquired him last year. Like, he was a name I kept hearing just from any, regular season game. Asamon. He's the new Yanni Gord. So it's really, good to hear that he's been kind of the, not standout, but kind of I guess standout's kind of the word I could use for that. So I'm expecting not a big year from him, but I'm just happy to see that he's a guy that is really taking this very seriously.
Yeah, and in previous years there has typically been like a spot that might be able to be filled by someone that's in the A, and there's been some battles for some players to come up. It's really hard to have that sort of a battle this year. There just aren't as many. There's a bigger difference in skill between the guys that are going to be in Syracuse and the guys that are going to be in the Lightning. So there's not really as many guys that are going to all of a sudden pop out, kind of like Perbex ended up doing this year. Really, the big question is going to be ABB, but he looked like he was performing well out there. He was rolling a lot with he was with Paul and Jeannot. So that I thought was kind of a weirdly balanced line. Paul is, he's big and, he's skilled, but he can also kind of grind. And then Jeannot is just, a net front presence guy that's going to be grinding on the boards to get possession. And you got somebody that can pass really well with ABB and shoot. So that's, kind of an interesting lineup. We'll see how that, if that sticks together. But I like having Paul specifically with somebody that can pass really well, because I think that he isn't a guy that needs to be skating end to end. He's somebody that needs to be in a good scoring position, get the puck, and then use his really strong shot to generate some opportunities. And I will say that Paul, his shot was looking really, really nice.
That's like what I guess he's underrated, but his shot was like probably one of his best attributes last year until he ran into a brick wall. But man, he does have a great shot. And I know it's still too early to kind of be predicting lineups or whatever you're expecting, but that Paul, ABB, and Jeannot, that could be a really sneaky, deadly line. And like you said, weirdly balanced. You got two big boys who can move, and you got a really dicey, dynamic player like ABB. If he does get in the lineup, I think we're all praying for that, knocking on wood that he does. If that line sticks, that could be sneakily deadly.
Oh, absolutely.
That would be great. And ABB's, the guy we've talked about, it feels like every single year on whether or not
it's a trope, right? It's like a trope. Like this is his last chance.
you would think so, but then again, I think we said that last year too, and he's still hanging around. But I hope he succeeds. I would love, Matt, for that line to be one of those lines that comes out of nowhere. And everybody's like, where did the Lightning get this guy, even though he's been around for so long now? That could be our player that really helps us out in the long term. But things are changing. There's a lot of new faces, a lot of new guys coming in. Things are looking a little bit different. But I'll tell you one thing that's never going to change: the amazing shirt that we've got over at shop.rblrsports.com. So be sure to head over there. Link, as always, is in the description. And the best part is, for our listeners right here, you can use code BOLTS to get 10% off your order. So again, that's shop.rblrsports.com. Check out the awesome team-inspired merch that we have over there. Lightning, Rays, Rowdies, Bucks, you name it. Be sure over there and get your new merchandise for the upcoming season. All right, so we had Media Day that we have a lot to talk about from there. There were a lot of comments that I think are interesting. I know everybody's waiting, like, are they going to talk about the Stamkos one? We'll get there in just a minute. I want to start off with Hedman, actually, because I don't know if you guys saw this, but I thought there were some great comments from Hedman. Gabby Shirley tweeted this one, but Victor Hedman on if the Bolts championship window is still open. He said, yes, it's never going to close. I'm not going to read the rest of the quote. I love that. Just that right there. I mean, Hedman is in it. He's here to win it. He's like, he doesn't care what's going on. They are always going to be a top competitive team, which just, it gets me excited. I'll finish the quote, though. He did go on to say, we got to battle, even though people are not going to pick us to win or even make the playoffs. We still believe in our group. And what we have, we got all the pieces. So obviously hearing the people who I still can't believe people are saying the Lightning are going to miss the playoffs. That is baffling to me, but the Lightning are hearing that. And to me, that gets me excited for this season.
I was going to say, the word that we used before is pedigree. This team has it, and they believe in themselves, and they need to get over that hump, get that first one. But I like the idea of almost being an underdog, being disrespected. I want that fire to burn under their asses and get out there and work that much harder so that they're ready to go. And I believe that they fully can do it if they're pushing themselves.
From all the quotes that I've seen so far from pretty much all the players that have been interviewed, not even just media day, but just going back to the offseason, there's one person in particular that really sticks out that seems just extra motivated is the word that I'm going to use, but angry motivated, and that's Mikhail Sergachev. So I guess just the defense core, the guys that were on the team last year, they seem like there's a lot of unfinished business and that they don't like being doubted like this. Like, this is a team that has been, the top dog for the last, going on 6 years or so now. Mikhail Sergachev, he was, I don't think he was on the 32 Thoughts podcast, but he did an interview with Friedman and Merrick, and he was saying, he was like, yeah, are we, he did the Russian interview a couple weeks ago that kind of caught some fire, but he was with Merrick and Friedman, and he said something along the lines of, like, are we disappointed? Absolutely. Do we know, like, we still have it in us? Absolutely. Like, nobody wants to lose to Toronto. Nobody wants to lose at all on this team, especially, but I kind of mimicking what Victor Hedman was saying, like, I don't understand why people are still doubting us. We have some of the best players in the world. We've got a great, just a great core, great depth. I don't know why people are doubting us. We will be back. He didn't say, I hope we can make it back. He said, we will be back. And that's the level of confidence. And anger is probably not the right word, but it's just a level of confidence that, I didn't really see last year. Last year, it's kind of a bit of a weird season, now that we can look back on it. It wasn't what we wanted it to be. Obviously, the bar is set to the moon. It's astronomically high. It's hard to reach it all the time, but these guys seem extra motivated and ready to get to work and get the job done.
It's so exciting, and to hear these comments. This is probably one of them. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's like more seasons I've been excited for to get. Just I don't know what if it's the long off season because we got taken out in the first round or what it is, but I'm ready to go, and it's going to be a fun season. Andrei Vasilevsky was talking to the media as well. And, of course, he's being asked about his rest because that's been a big topic for the Lightning in general over the last couple of years because they've played so many games because they went into so many deep runs. And he basically talked about how he's going to really try and listen to his body this year and try to rest a little bit more. And that is also coupled with that Vasilevsky does seem to have a little bit of an injury. Now, there was a little bit of overreaction to this, I think. Basically, Vasi has not been super active in training camp. And the reporters asked Cooper about it, and Cooper said that he's just kind of battling some things physically, and he's basically day to day. He said it was not a long-term injury as of right now, which I guess means it could turn into something, but it doesn't sound like it's a major problem. And it's also still 3 weeks until the regular season even starts. We haven't even started preseason. It starts tomorrow as it's recording, but seems like it's a minor thing. But it sounds like Vasilevsky's really going to try not push himself to 82 games like it feels like he does every single year.
I love this. I love this so much. And I was bringing it up so many times about his exit interview at the end of last season, how he was going to stress being more cognizant of his body and the wear and tear that he's putting on it throughout the regular season. And even if this is something as simple as like an oblique strain, the last thing you want to do is keep testing it, or maybe it's something small with his groin, and the next thing you know, it becomes something that he's fighting all season long. He's getting in there early with the rest. I think it's showing great maturity by him. As he evolves his not only game on the ice, but like the mental battle, the physical battle of just maintaining your body as you start getting a little bit older. And this is huge growth for him, being able to recognize these issues, get out in front of them, and allow your backup goalie to do what they're there to do, is to give you a little bit of reprieve from 82 games, because realistically, it's the ones that come after that matter the most.
Yeah, that was like the thing that we kind of hammered on the most for the exit interview show that we did, was that quote from Bazzi that he needs to, what was it, listen to his body. When you're starting Vezina candidate, Stanley Cup winning goalie is saying that, you used a great word, Joe, maturity. If he is at the point to saying, he's aware that I shouldn't be playing 65 games a year. I should take a night off. Like, it was last year, even in the playoffs, he was getting shelled, and I think it was game 2, and Cooper wanted to pull him, and he said, "No, I'm staying." I know playoffs are different. He's going to be the rock that we keep in net all the time, but you're right, showing just a little bit more maturity. Even though his career still has many, many, many more years of success, hopefully, to come. You're keeping this same body after you retire. So that's something a lot of players don't really look at. Of course, you want them to try their hardest and, try 100% during the season, but having a stance like that and being, ready and willing to listen to your body and take care of yourself, that's, it's admirable. Honestly, it is.
And look at how many times we had Ben Bishop not be able to complete a season with how much his body was getting taxed during the regular season, and missing playoff games. And it's I love this. Hopefully it's something that he does rebound real quick from, and if you pray for him not to have injuries moving forward. But if this is what we come to expect from him, I think it'll show that he's going to do even better this season than last.
He did mention in his when he was talking to the media that he doesn't think it'll change the number of games that he tries to play, but he still has been talking a lot about just listening to his body more, in which it seems counterintuitive a little bit, but it's been mostly positive things when we're hearing about Vasilevsky, and it seems like he's going to be ready to go for this season. All right, the big news we got to talk about was Steven Stamkos and him talking to the media. So there's a lot of different quotes out there. I highly recommend, if you're not already, I'm sure most of you are, follow Gabby Shirley, follow Chris Kren, because they are the best when it comes to getting your Lightning news, and they were tweeting out all the quotes from both Steven Stamkos and JBB. But to kind of recap it, if you don't know, early on, we got Stamkos, I think, was the first one to talk with the media, and the quote came out that Stamkos said he was kind of disappointed that the contract talks had not started with him, Lightning. And that quote got picked up and ran like wildfire all over. I mean, the Bleacher Report for the NHL was picking it up. You had Friedman talking about it then, and a lot of the news guys quote tweeting it and putting it out there. So it spread quickly, and it gave a lot of people of concern going, what's going on with Steven Stamkos? Now, JBB did later come out and clarify some of the things, basically saying that, listen, I've got to see what happens this season to make a determination. That also kind of set off some people saying, like, well, wait a minute, what do you need to see from Steven Stamkos? He's Steven Stamkos. But when the full quote came out, it did kind of clarify that he needs to know what's happened with other players and make a determination on them, how much money he's going to have. So basically a lot of back and forth and some confusion with quotes that were getting pulled from the full comments that were made on the situation. But long story short, Steven Stamkos seemed like he wanted to get a contract extension done before the season and already start this process. JBB is taking that team-first approach and taking his time and not wanting to make a decision until after the season happens. And that's the general idea of what happened. And I'll let you guys go, and then I'll jump in as well. But, guys, to me, it concerned me a little bit. I understand JBB's got to figure things out, and he's got to make the right decisions for the team. I just didn't like that. I know, Joe. I know. I didn't like that Stamkos had to come out and say that, I was surprised. Like, where's the communication there? That was the thing that concerned me the most. It seems like there might have been a little not as good communication as there could have been.
All right, I'm laughing because Jake's kind of underplaying a little bit of how concerned he may or may not have been.
All right.
And
Fair enough.
there may have been some panic chats going on, and the media picked this thing up, and has spread like wildfire. It's been one of the bigger, probably the biggest story regarding the Lightning in the last few months, as well as all throughout the NHL. That Stamkos is unhappy. That Stamkos doesn't trust JBB at this point, and there's been a whole bunch of rumors going on with it for sure.
You know what? At least the Bucks aren't dealing with contract disputes with their franchise face. So
everybody's saying that too, right?
Oh man, Tale of Two Cities. But I wasn't too concerned with it at first. I really wasn't until Friedman came out with a quote. I believe he asked another member of the Lightning or somebody part of the staff, and he said there's an underlying belief that if the Lightning lose Stamkos, they won't be entirely crushed.
Oh,
And that's when I
sent
started
me through
to
a panic again.
yeah, that's when I started to be like, oh man, and started kind of reading deeper into this, because like I totally 100% understand and get where JBB is coming from. Like if let's say he has a bad, mediocre-ish year or something, you might be able to get him on a cheaper deal or something like that. But at the same time, this is your franchise face. This is the Lightning here. He's not the best player on the team. He's not, really who he was anymore, but he's not like falling off a cliff or anything. He's not regressing like that. I mean, he just set a career high in points 2 years ago. He was still over a point per game last year. Knocking on wood, but he's been durable over the last 2 years as well. I think he's only missed one game for the birth of his child and maybe one precautionary game or something in the past 2 seasons. Same thing with Mike. Give the man the bag. You don't have to sign him to an Austin Matthews deal or anything like that, but this is a guy that, has done everything for you. He's persevered. He, again, literally the face of Tampa hockey throughout any era. It's going to be Stamkos. Once his career is over, it's not going to be St. Louis or Le Cavalier. It's going to be Stamkos. I'm sorry.
So I've also heard that from the kind of the other side, the rumor is that some of the players don't fully trust JBB after what happened with Killorn. So getting locked up early is something that's really important because they don't feel like it could happen.
What do you mean?
Otherwise,
We've seen how many players have gotten locked up early. Like, JBB is known for signing these guys before the contracts get even to their expiring year. So I think that maybe played into a factor a little bit as well.
Oh, absolutely. That was kind of the first thing that, I know we didn't really talk about it much and I wasn't really expecting it, but after the Hagel deal, you'd kind of think maybe, now that pretty much everything is tidy and in place, you might start contract talks with Stamkos, but apparently he said there's been no talks whatsoever. And he was the one, his camp, they were trying to get this deal done before the season, kind of following the status quo of getting a deal done before you hit, free agency, restricted or unrestricted, getting a deal done the year before. So I think that kind of probably definitely threw him for a loop and everybody else. So it's a very tough situation for both parties involved. And Stamkos is on record saying, I want to spend my whole career here. I want to retire a Bolt. He said that.
You sound exactly like Killorn.
Oh God.
Joe, don't you?
And it is apples and oranges too. Like, God bless Killorn. I love him. He was, he still is a great player, but he was great for the Lightning, but he wasn't Steven Stamkos. Like, absolutely. You're not gonna, I don't know. I wouldn't bend my knee quite as far for Killorn as I would for Stamkos. So they are definitely two different players, but again, like I don't feel any more reassured after what JBB has said in his interviews as well. This is a very sticky situation.
I liked JBB's when the full transcript of what he said was released. That's another thing. These, I know Twitter, you're limited to how many things you can say, but a lot of these quotes I think got taken out of context. But
no.
No, they didn't. They were definitely taken out of context. But I think his full thing was good because he's got to think of the team as a future. But Matt, like what you were saying, right? This is, we're talking about Alex Killorn. I'm actually repping
Oh,
Alex
yeah.
Killorn right here on my jersey today. So, but this is Steven Stamkos, the captain of your team. Like, I don't care if Stamkos misses the entire year this year. You got to sign the guy. I mean, I will be sorely upset if they lose Steven. And this is why Job was laughing. And I went into a panic because I'm like, this is your guy. Like, I get it. You want to set up a good team, but it's Steven Stamkos, and he has shown no signs of slowing down. Yeah, maybe if he drops off a little bit, you sign him to a cheaper deal or something like that. But even still, Stamkos has been on, like you said, Matt, multiple times that he wants to stay here. He wants to retire as well. He reiterated it in the media day interviews. He keeps saying that he wants to stay here as a Bolt. He's the face of the franchise. He's the captain of the team. He's been a fantastic player for the Lightning. So for me, it's like I wanted to get this deal done before the season. I think that plays a part into it too. I'm talking a little bit, through my Lightning cap here as a fan, but the communication thing is what kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit because I don't know if Stamkos used it as a negotiating tactic just to kind of put it out there and put pressure on JBB. Joe, you mentioned this to me when we were talking beforehand, but you got to be able to communicate with Stamkos like, hey, man, listen, I want to sign you, but I just got to see how these other guys do.
So we were talking that this is going to be the most difficult season for JBB. This off season would be for him in terms of finding ways to sign players, stay under the cap. There's been what the heck it sounds like somebody outside right now is like dragging a shovel across the road. I hope you guys can't, it's not coming through too heavily. All right, good. So we knew it was going to be a tremendously difficult summer for JBB just to sign the players that he had to, that were coming up. And to add, trying to extend Stamkos into that, maybe just isn't something that he was prepared to do until he figured out everything else. And in terms of communication, I really think that maybe Stamkos was trying to use the media as a little bit of a negotiating tactic, but it probably got a little bit too emotional with it and expounded a little much because it did come off a little bit harsher than I'm hoping that he intended to deliver the message.
That's a strong possibility.
Yeah, and the truth is, we don't know what the salary cap is going to look like next year and what the teams can be able to afford. We don't know which signings that we have from this year are going to necessarily stick and work out for the team. So to be able to look that far into the future with a guy that is the face of your franchise, has been here forever, and hopefully there's enough trust between the two of them to know that he's going to stick with Stamkos. I think that it's a lot of overreacting by the media that's building this thing out of proportion. And in terms of, why didn't you talk to him over the offseason? That's not like a thing. That's not something that JBB should be expected to do, to reassure a professional player that, even though you're not supposed to be signed this summer, I just want you to know I'm still thinking about you, before we, the next summer comes up. It's ridiculous. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Lightning don't have drama.
No.
We just the biggest drama that we had was some crappy announcer from Boston calling Pat Fat Pat, right? Pat Maroon, and like that is about the only thing that we've had.
It.
Right, and he completely owned him with that with that battle online, and outside of that, before I think it was the Cocaine Cowboys. Back when Malone was on the team, that was like the last time there was anything to really print. So when something like this and it's slow, the media's going to grab it and run, and everybody knows that media outside of our market loves to trash the Lightning. Like they still disrespect them like they're not a real cup-winning team. It was a bubble cup; it should have an asterisk. All that sort of BS.
Don't get me started.
So I think this is just a runaway story. And not to take any sort of enthusiasm out of the podcast, but it's a big nothing burger, I think, in my opinion. And as long as, maybe Stamkos, to quote the coach in Waterboy, hey, Bobby, water sucks. Use it on the field. Maybe Stamkos uses this to make a career season so he gets paid.
Can I at least attempt to put your mind at ease, Jake, just a little bit?
Absolutely.
We only have 2 forwards next season that are unsigned. One a UFA, one's an RFA. And the cap is projected to go up around $5 million or so. It could be, knowing Gary Bettman and the NHL, it'll probably go up like 500,000 or something. But
Don't
it's
say
projected. It's projected to go up like 5 million or something. So at least, I don't think next year is going to be quite as difficult as maybe this past offseason seemed. But that's just my opinion. I think, we're going to have a little bit more money to work with. All of the new deals, the trio deals that got signed last summer, Sorelli, Chernak, and Sergachev, those deals are kicking in this year. Hagel's deal is going to be kicking in next year, and that's really kind of the only new contract that's already on the team is going to be there. But I don't know. We have a little bit more negotiating room. Can I put your mind back to panic mode for a second?
Oh, you're going to put me at ease and you put me back into panic mode now? All right,
Yes.
What you got, Matt?
Jeff Merrick brought up a great point a couple days ago, and he said that the Florida Panthers are going to have a lot of salary coming off their books this coming
All right, Eureka, can we
season.
kick Matt out of the show? We will not tolerate that kind of talk here on this podcast.
I like
that's
to speculate.
It's a really good point what you said too, though, about projected to be $5 million of a cap increase, and think about the prospect of that only being $1 million, and then you handcuffed yourself to a contract that you can't actually live up to, and now you're buying out Steven Stamkos. You want to talk about being ran out of town? If that were to happen, and it would be all because of premature negotiations for the contract.
The other part of the Panthers thing, it honestly, it has some claws to it. It does a little bit, because don't get me wrong, don't let Canadian media get a hold of this, but Florida's got to be one of the best places to play National Hockey League hockey in, with all the tax benefits
Tampa.
and it being a great state. Yeah, Tampa especially. But he probably, with all the incentives Florida has to offer, not having to completely uproot yourself, only being a 4-hour drive away. It was an idea. I don't like this idea at all. I'm just saying it's a potential possibility that he just had to bring out into the world. I don't like it any more than you, but it's just something to speculate.
He doesn't like the idea. He just wants Stamkos to explore his options.
He's putting that out there because people are going to click on that going, oh, I know he's not, people like me are freaking out, and he gets more clicks on that. That's why that news
it was in
there.
the podcast, Jake. It's not an article. It was literally just
Listen, at the end of the day, I fully believe, and JBB said this, he's like, listen, I still want to sign Stamkos. I want Stamkos to retire as a goalie, but he said, I just need to see how this season plays out. I get it. Absolutely. And I think Stamkos will sign here with the Lightning because both parties want to keep him as long as the cap doesn't completely screw us and it does go up the projected amount, the $4 to $5 million that we're seeing. I would be shocked if Stamkos doesn't re-sign as a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So it was just the initial quotes that came out that I think put people into a panic, and rightfully so. I get it. It's when you see those quotes, your heart sinks a little bit. You're like, wait a minute, no. And especially because it's Steven Stamkos. If this is happening with Esimont, nobody's batting an eyelid. But no respect to Esimont, but that's just the way it would be. So I think Stamkos elevates this a lot more, but I do think he'll come back.
Yeah, and I think it also, I did say that in our chat, but it should be brought up that if you're a fan of the Lightning, you are spoiled rotten. You haven't really been exposed to much drama, to too much change. In the past, I guess about 5 years, the two biggest things that you've had to deal with was the McDonough trade, and then Killorn not being signed, essentially. And outside of that, Yanni Gourde got selected, and there's been some guys that have gone away, but it hasn't really been as tumultuous as some of the other teams. When you look at teams like Buffalo, my God, how much talent has been through Buffalo that they can't keep. You can look at in the past, like Edmonton, how many guys have been drafted by Edmonton that end up somewhere else, or like Yakupov. I don't even know if he's still playing anymore, and he was a first rounder.
He was first overall.
Right.
Yeah, he's still playing in the KHL actually.
Well, I mean, yeah, in the NHL, yeah. So he's not even in the league. I figured, yeah,
Oh,
figured
he
he's still
hasn't been
playing.
since like 2016.
Yeah. So I mean, the idea though that we've had our core group for over a decade is ridiculous. So a lot of fans are gonna go into straight panic mode, but just understand that you've been spoiled. Yeah, you've been spoiled. We've had a really, really good run, and then this is a lot more typical of what you experience for being a fan of any other team. Actually, even look at the Panthers. They've had so many players come in and out of there as well.
No,
Hey, Jake, would you
yes.
rather Stamkos sign in Florida or Toronto?
I would.
Meteor.
I would rather a meteor strike down here, and I don't have to deal with that. Neither.
He's coming
According to
home.
producer Eureka, there's going to be a $34 million of cap space next year up in Toronto
Stop
with
it. Stop
15 open roster spots.
All right. Well, I mean, it did put me in a little bit of panic, but once the full comments came out, I was not as much concerned. I understand it. It's a tough situation. It's a tough position to be in for JBB because he doesn't sign Stamkos. People are going to be mad at him, but he does sign Stamkos and the cap doesn't go up like you were saying. People are going to be mad at him. Like it's a very tough situation. Again, I fully believe he will come back. And like you were saying, Joe, TLDR, it doesn't seem like it's much of anything. It was getting blown out of proportion. Stamkos more than likely comes back, has a great year this year. That's the hope anyway. So,
Light a fire and earn that contract.
absolutely. Last thing I want to do before we close out the show is we have the preseason coming up. It starts tomorrow, as I mentioned, with their first game, and then I'll just quickly pull up the schedule here. So you got games against the Carolina Hurricanes and the Nashville Predators on the 26th and 27th. Those are both away games. And then on the 29th, they will play their first home preseason game at Amalie Arena against the Carolina Hurricanes. And then September 30th, they'll play Nashville. That one at 5 p.m. All these games, there are different times for the most part. You got 7 p.m.s, 5 p.m.s, and 6 p.m. games. October 3rd, they are playing at Amway Center against the Florida Panthers, their annual game that they do during the preseason. Because I am currently in Orlando, I will absolutely be at that game, so we'll have some nice things to talk about for that one. And
Which day is that on, Jake?
that is on October 3rd.
Do you know which day that is? Like, day of the week?
It is a Tuesday. It is a Tuesday, I believe.
Oh, I might.
Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure I just looked and it was a Tuesday.
If it's
October
during the week,
5th,
I'ma try
they
to
are
get there
playing
too.
Florida again. That'll be at Amalie Arena. October 7th is the last preseason game, which is an away game. So preseason hockey is here, and we're getting excited. I want to ask you guys this before we close here. Is there any players that you're looking forward to watching this preseason? Joe, I'll start with you.
No, I'm sorry to give you nothing on a answer like that. I think we kind of have known elements. I mean,
That's fair. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that ABB again. I want to see him try to develop more as a role player rather than just what he's been good at the AHL level. But you're not going to really see that exclusively through preseason either. I think it's going to take a little bit more time. I'm just glad to be able to watch some hockey, and I'll probably end up doing it relatively casually.
Me and Joe are going to have kind of similar answers on different ends of the spectrum. Mine was going to be all of them. I'm just craving anything we can get right now. There are a couple players, like ABB is one I want to see how he does. Hopefully he can light it up in the preseason and get a spot. But some of the new guys like Connor Sherry and Tyler Mott, a very new guy, Luke Lendening, just all the new guys I'm really excited to see and how they slot in and what they're going to be able to do. But again, preseason is only so much. The regular season is where, some of it counts. But, I'm already looking forward to playoffs. I'm like, skip the regular season. But, yeah,
I'll tell you real quick what I'm not wanting to see, though, is somebody have a Nemesnikov type preseason and then just fall off the face of the earth.
Oh no, we can't have that. Yeah, that was a tough one for Nemesnikov and get traded. He didn't finish the season, got traded halfway through. Personally, for me, I don't know how long Gorshev will be there because he's a relatively younger guy, so he may only be there for a game or two. But I'm excited to see him. As you guys mentioned, of course, the new guys, Connor Sherry specifically, I'm really excited for him. I kind of think he's a Hagel 2.0 situation here. I think he could be really good for the Lightning in this upcoming season. So I'm excited to see how he works with all the guys, especially because I think he's a guy that could play with Stamkos, Kucherov, or Point, because he's had a lot of success with playing just some talented superstars in Sidney Crosby and Ovechkin as well. So that's who I'm looking forward to. We'd love to hear from our listeners as well. Let us know who you guys are excited to watch this upcoming preseason, if you're concerned about Steven Stamkos at all as well. Matt, you've got a trivia question I'm hearing for me. What you got?
Well, I was going to try to transition after the stressful Stamkos talk to just kind of lighten the mood, but the preseason talk was a little bit better. But I've just been in, other than football mode, full hockey mode, and it's a question, but it's just a random question. You might know the answer, Jake, because I heard it on a podcast. But do you guys know who the all-time leader in goalie wins of playoff goalie wins, all-time leader who isn't Canadian?
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, all-time playoff wins by a goalie that isn't Canadian?
Correct.
It's got to be, I want to say Vasilevsky.
That's
I mean, he's got, I guess he's relatively younger, but he's won a lot of games, and he's not Canadian, so.
I'm not sure.
Come on, submit an answer. I mean, there's a lot of foreign goaltenders. American, Czech, Sweden.
I was gonna say,
Jonathan Quick's another
Quick,
name.
I was gonna say, is Quick Canadian? I don't think he's American, isn't he?
He's Quick is American, and he's played a lot of hockey. He could be
I'll go with Quick.
Jake?
I said Vasi, but Quick played a lot longer than Vasi. I think Vasi will get there eventually, but I'll go with, I think Quick is the best, or quicker. Geez, now you got me thinking too much here. Lundqvist.
He's had some runs.
Lundqvist could be one of them.
He always is in the playoffs.
He was in the playoffs a lot.
Yeah.
I'll go with Lundqvist just to be different.
It's Vasilevsky.
Oh, why did I change my answer? I'm furious. I knew it. Hey, man, that just goes to show you how good Vasilevsky is. He is a lot younger than Quick and Lundqvist, and he is a beast in winning all those games.
I thought Jake liked Vasi. He picked him first last time for the draft, and I didn't have faith that he was the number one non-Canadian for.
Despite him only winning 2 games in the playoffs last year, he passed Dominik Hasek for all-time playoff wins.
Right, I knew that. Why did I not stick? Now I'm upset, Matt. Look what you did.
But I think he's like 13th all-time behind 12 Canadian goaltenders or whatever. He's within the top 15 all-time for playoff wins, and he's not even 30 yet. He's not even like 28 yet.
Wow.
I just figured you guys would like that, and I figured it'd be obscure enough you guys wouldn't be thinking Vasi. You were on the right track, Jake, so I'll give you half a point.
Well, Matt, you had mentioned that maybe you're interested in going to that Tuesday game.
Mm-hmm.
How interested you think?
Pretty.
Let's figure it out. I'll we can carpool. I can drive us over. You think that, Jake, you can secure the tickets and we'll settle up after the fact? Get 3 together.
RBLR Lightning full show.
We'll even let Eureka come with us if he gets the time off.
That would be fantastic. We'll definitely have to work that all out. And that's going to be a fun preseason game for sure. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it and joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on social media at RBLR Sports or at RBLR Lightning so you don't miss out on any future shows just like this one. Bucks, Rays, the Rowdies, they're all getting into their sports as well. Great podcast over there. You guys can watch them. Go Bolts.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.